Well, we're now joined by Maageketla, who's been on this story for quite a while now and watching development for us. Thanks so much for joining us, Maageketla. You've gone back into Alex and starting to see other layers of this story that we've been watching over the last 2 years at least. And I just wonder, what drew your attention to these structures in particular?
I mean, just when we thought that the total shutdown protests highlighted things like the mushrooming of shacks, people building everywhere in Alexandra, people building on the edge of Jacques River. Just when we thought that was the only story, I mean, there is more coming out. You go to Alexandra, and that particular project that we saw in that story is at Maageketla Hostel. This is where about 4 blocks remain unfinished. And these blocks would have accommodated about 254 families. What we are hearing from the ground is that this project started in 2012. It was abandoned in 2016. According to some of the officials, they are telling us that this is simply because they said that there was no budget any longer. But again, from what we understand, this is part of the Alex Renewal Project. And what we hear is that there have been promises that officials would come back, including the contractors, to finish building these units. But again, when you move just steps away from this particular Maageketla hostel, there is the popular Madala hostel is peeling off, the walls are peeling off, is inhabitable, but of course people do not have any other options. They were expected to move out of that hostel to make a way for demolition of that hostel, but they have since been waiting, and what they are saying is that they were supposed to be taken to a nearby structure where we were at earlier on. We saw a structure that's incomplete. There's no roofing. And from what we hear is that this structure was built in 2011, and it was then stopped in 2011, in 2012 rather. So now people are starting to build in those rooms, in those unoccupied rooms. There's a lot of shacks in there, and what these people are saying is that they've been waiting. They've been waiting since 2012, but no one is actually fulfilling their promises.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, somewhere around 2012, several contractors were given tenders to build structures, homes for people, and one area in particular, 254 homes were supposed to be built. This started happening, and after 4 years, for some reason, they just left the site and left these structures incomplete. And I would imagine that the inquiry might look into this, but the question is, who was supposed to be building and why weren't they paid?
Well, that's a good question, because if you look at all these issues, it's not only about the Alex Renewal Project. We know that there are allegations of corruption in that project, and of course that's what this joint inquiry by both Human Rights Commission as well as Public Protector are looking into, and of course they are still actually probing into it. There is this project called Far East Bank project that started from about 1996 to 2000, and we spoke to some of the contractors there, and they are saying that they are still waiting for their full payments. In fact, they are saying that they were paid only 25% of what they were owed in 2019. They've been waiting for about 24 years to actually get paid. And what they are saying is that they are still waiting, and when they approach the officials, they are telling them that you need to actually approach your lawyers, then we'll take it from there. They are still actually hopeless at this stage.
All right, so what you're telling me is that as far back as 1996, there's just been a pattern of some kind of chicanery that's not being quite explained. 96 people, contractors built some homes, they finished them, but only got paid at 25% in 2019. And then now this latest cases where structures went up, and they weren't finished, people disappeared, and people have now started building inside, putting shacks inside those structures.
And that's the story of Alexandra. I mean, we've been covering the stories there. You've seen how many siblings are actually living in those one-roomed shack. And of course, some, telling us that whenever they have to take a bath, they will have to request other siblings to make a room for them. And those are kind of stories that we've actually been tracking in Alexandra.
All right. So there were residents that set up a gathering, a residents' association to fight back. What has happened to that?
Well, as far as we know is that you would recall that during the total shutdown movement, the president actually appointed an interministerial task team to actually look into these issues. And we are actually still waiting to hear what they found, what the solutions are, and we are also hoping to hear from the inquiry by the Human Rights Commission as well as Public Protector in terms of what they will actually come out with. But we know that this inquiry will resume in April, and we are expecting its report to be released in June. But from what we understand, I mean, according to Public Protector spokesperson, he says that, I mean, the allegations that are coming out of this inquiry are quite serious, more especially when it comes to these projects, unfinished projects, for that matter.
So bottom line, not much has changed on the ground for the residents of Alexandra.
Ever since the dawn of democracy, according to them, and according to what we've seen on the ground, from 1996 to 2000, to 2000, projects were built, contractors have not been paid. 2001, Alex Renewal Project launched, yet some of the structures remain incomplete because of the impatience of the people of Alexandra. Of course, they are saying that we've got no options but to build inside this unfinished structure. Even one of the halls that we've seen there is occupied by shacks, and it's quite dangerous for children to actually live in there. Of course, you also have issues of illegal connection of electricity. Children are exposed to that as well.
All right, Maageketla, we're going to have to leave it there, but thanks very much indeed for following up on this important story, and I'm sure it's still got quite a way to go. Thanks so much for your insights.